I drink, and I only drink when I overthink. I only smoke when I drink, and I only drink when I overthink. I only smoke when I drink, and I only drink when I overthink. I only smoke when I drink, and I only drink when I overthink. I only smoke when I drink, and I only drink when I overthink. I only smoke when I drink, and I only drink when I overthink. And I only think about you, and I only think about you. I only think about you, and I only think about you. I only think about you. Smoke when I drink, and I only drink when I overthink. I only smoke when I drink, and I only drink when I overthink. And I only think about you, 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 you. And I only think about you, 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 you. I only think about you, 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 you. And I only think about you, 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 you. I only think about you. And I only think about you. I only think about you. And I only think about you. I only smoke when I drink, and I only drink when I overthink. And I only think about you. Another thought of you, another shot or two. The room's spinning, your head's spinning, and I'm drowning about new women and young women. I only smoke when I drink, and I only drink when I overthink. And I only think about you. Another thought of you, another shot or two. The room's spinning, and your head's swimming, and I'm drowning about new women and young women.
Miracles, keepers, losers, weepers, tripping off the pedestal. Miracles, parking in, taping on the safety. Love is something new. Is there anybody, 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 anybody that can see me? 'Cause I hear everybody, 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 everybody. Don't you agree? I think I'm tripping on my own too. I think I'm tripping on my own too. I think I'm I think I'm tripping, tripping on my own too. I think I'm tripping, tripping, tripping on my own too. I think I'm tripping on my own too. I think I'm tripping, tripping, tripping on my own too.
Got a feeling that I'm drowning out by your side. My mind gets numb from the pain that was left behind. So when you feel the same, will you take my hand? So when you hear this right, can we please pretend? So take away what's left behind, so you can feel the rain from the other side. So take away what's left behind, so you can feel the rain from the other side. Got a feeling that I'm drowning out by your side. My mind gets numb from the pain that was left behind. So when you feel the same, will you take my
All right, folks. What's happening? Nah, yeah, the music is definitely glitching out. Just turned it off now that we can be live and ready to go here. All right. I'm going to see if the audio is better now. 1 second, guys. How are you guys doing? Let me know when you start to hear my voice. Here we go. Here we go. Okay. Sounds good on your end? Okay. What's good? What's up, Friso? All right, let me see if today is going to be the day. All right, here we go. Sounds good. What's up, Ruben? How you doing, my brother? Loud and clear. Let's go. Fire. Buenos días. ¿Qué tal los demás? Pero bien. Okay. How did you guys end up doing yesterday? Our Nasdaq trade ended up getting wicked in. I ended up getting stop profit, and then it ended up running, which was cool. Then later on, ended up taking a short. But what about you guys? You guys got your hats? Hey, let's go. People in the syndicate, I know you guys are getting your merch. Love to see it. Hell yeah. All right, perfect. All right, 1 second here. Okay, we should be good to go here now. There we go. All right. So now you guys are looking at me. Sup, fam? Sup? Un segundo. Here we go. Perfect. All right. Okay. So let's take a look at how things are going. You know, interestingly enough, yesterday we end up getting oh, and here's just so you guys know, we are trading live today and every day. So we end up seeing a lot of squeezing, and then the markets are just making decisions at the end. So I kind of want to dive kind of deep into that. So, for example, a few of the days, I'm seeing like probably half the days last month and this month, we basically have to endure some sideways movement, and then we get, like, you get the move. So whether it was Dow here, for example, or yesterday we were trading, what the fuck? All right, hold on, guys. Let me go ahead and get this all set up here. All right, perfect. So we have, for example, yesterday with NQ, tons of waiting, tons of waiting, and then you finally see it break out, make the move. Same thing over here. And yesterday, for example, we were seeing how, here we go. Dow Jones took out the highs over here. So let me go ahead and zoom out. But we see Dow push. And it pushes above the London session and New York Open. Remember we were talking about that. Okay, I want to see Dow kind of clear these levels. And so it does. All right, we get above into this range before it finally sees its way down towards the end of New York session. So when we saw Dow break above these highs, I saw a difference, right? I'm seeing Dow Jones make a move like this. So we're bullish on Dow. We're seeing higher highs. And then we see NQ making lower highs. So when I noticed that difference, that divergence, I'm thinking to myself, okay, is there an opportunity for a short in this kind of environment? Are we getting a better chance at selling something? And so, looking at some small time frame stuff, I was able to position myself into a short yesterday and then take advantage of that, trading into the lows that we saw in New York session. So that's basically what we got. Now, following that, we see another version of that when we saw a huge influx of volatility during Asian session. So you guys must have seen the crypto started to pop off. We started to see everything just go crazy. And so at that time, I'm thinking, yesterday, I'm like, all right, we're getting pretty close to hitting beyond these highs. So I start to see, originally I'm waiting to see if I'm going to short NASDAQ up here. But then during Asian session, we see a move like this coming into the zone. And I'm seeing this fly, cracking the highs from the previous day's New York session. And I'm looking at this and thinking, okay, so NASDAQ is now pushing further in that present time. It's way more bullish than Dow. All right, how do I, do we wait for a short then with Dow Jones? Is there a reason for it? And so once I saw NASDAQ take out the highs over here, so not only does that clear this week's highs, but then we also get above last week's highs and beyond. Now I'm thinking to myself, okay, so at this point we've cleared tons of liquidity. So this lures in tons of buyers, lures out tons of sellers. Are we going to get some sort of price action that'll either give us a green light on the short for NASDAQ or for Dow? I want to see that textbook shakeout setup. And so the market then here is, starting to move sideways, starting to build up. We see Dow then pump up again while NASDAQ is making lower highs. And so then we see the market make its move down. So where does that take us to? Asian session, then we see it's a very short-lived high over here. So there wasn't a lot of demand once we broke above. We saw very, very little demand up here. Okay. And guys, let me know if the stream quality is good. There's no choppiness. It's all like just running smooth. Keep me in the loop. But yeah, we see it spike up and we see it come right back down. So I'm not loving the demand up here for now, which means that I'm not convinced that we're fully going higher highs, higher lows, and we're ready. It could be because at the same time, when we get below these lows, this also doesn't really last, right? We're not seeing a lot of demand. The market truly trading below 21,800 and wanting to stay below here. So we're kind of seeing little demand up here, little demand down here. So entering at the lows or the highs of this range make a lot more sense. And exiting within the zone right now, if you want to truly lock in like conservative exits within these ranges, make the most sense. So now the question becomes, are we looking at trading Dow Jones today? Does that look like the proper opportunity? I actually wanted to buy in this zone down here. Yesterday we saw the big sell-off, the market move. So this is what I wanted to play in. I wanted to catch a buy below this liquidity. And unfortunately for us, this happened during London session. This was the London session low. So now we can understand we have Asian session highs over here. So I can go ahead and point this out. We have Asian session high, Asian session high. We have London session low. So both of these here. And something else that you should be noticing is this was the last push up before the market drops down. So could we have a possible sell in this range? So there's motive. We can see a mitigation here. These buy positions get closed out. One option. The other, excuse me, is how we see the market move down, come up again, lures in sellers one last time before it rips. So I think we could also see potential buy scenarios at these levels here. These were the London session moves to the downside. These definitely drive buyers out, sellers in, and then the market moves. So this is kind of what the market's looking like right now. However, what we want is confirmation of direction. So when we're seeing the market move, making higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, and then now lower lows, we lose demand over here. So don't fully commit to the buys, the bullish structure. Then we see the market make a quick move down, doesn't last, comes back up. So, okay, not quite convinced that these lows are here to create bearish structure. We see it dip again, right back up again. Dip again, right back up again. So little demand below 42,760, little demand above 42,920. So we're kind of have these two ranges as the focal points for Dow. Now, before we make a decision, let's go look at NASDAQ and S&P. So NASDAQ here, we see a enormous move to the upside. So clearly tons of money comes into the market here. And if you look at Dow, I mean, you kind of see something similar, right? Big moves to the upside. The difference is once we started to kind of peak up here, we just saw good, healthy price action with NASDAQ. So not quite the same spike up and the drop. We just see kind of lower highs, lower lows in the zone. And so in this area, I'm a bit more focused on there's really not the best entry here off of these highs, but I'm definitely seeing how we saw a move to the upside, the drop, and the continuation. So I do think we could see, some sort of shorting opportunities just kind of up in this range. So just in this zone, there is a chance because of that massive buy position here. Specifically, once we clear these highs, we know that this is liquidating tons of sell positions over here. So somewhere in here, we could see a short, and this is going to make more sense, and it's going to be a better trade if NASDAQ is kind of pushing to the upside way more slowly than Dow. So, for example, if we see Dow just ripping and it's approaching these zones very quickly and NASDAQ's a little bit slower on that come up, then we may be able to position ourselves in a sell. Now, same thing goes for the buy. As you guys have noticed, the market tries. So it clears New York session lows. It gets into, the imbalances here. This actually, I called this buyout yesterday as well. So if anybody took this, you got a good reaction. I mean, you could have seen some profit 2-to-1s easily. But that would have been contingent on Dow as well. And so either way, regardless of that, comes down, very little demand, flies back up. So we see this lower low. It's breached, but it's not maintained. So I wouldn't say this doesn't give me a bearish structure yet. So we move sideways. London session volume kicks in again. Spike down here. So just right into there. Same thing. Liquidates Monday's London session lows. And like we talked about on Monday, it gets into this Asian session range, rejects from here, and then rallies. So we're seeing very little demand at these levels. The market refuses to really stay below 21,800 for very long. And with that being said, I think this is where I think we could see a buy as well within this range, depending on how the market unfolds, especially because we're seeing here is where we have some sideways movement. You could consider this a type of liquidity. So we have similarly here the Asian session high. So these are typical stop losses for any positions that were pulled into for Asian session. And then we have our London session low. So depending on the context, either these are going to get swept or these are going to get mitigated. And this is going to depend on a few things. So, for example, and this is where I'm going to go ahead and do a split screen. Now, while I get this set up, I want to give you guys a reminder that tomorrow I'm going to be hosting CPI. So I'm going to be live about 15 minutes before CPI, which is about 45 minutes before we usually are here live on YouTube. But I'm only going to be hosting the CPI session in the Tradetopia community. So make sure you click the link at the top. Join the community. I'll accept your invitation if you, once you answer the questions. And then we'll be live there through Zoom. So we'll chop it up. Cameras on, good energy, good vibes. And so we'll be live through there. And then later for New York Open, we'll be live here on YouTube. So make sure you join the community if you haven't already. And then make sure you're taking advantage of all the resources that are there as well. There is a lot to take advantage of. So, okay. Let me go ahead and create the split screen here. Okay. So here is how we have everything structured at the moment. The reason it's really important for us to have awareness. Do I have to have my camera? No, you don't have to have your camera. I usually look like a train wreck in the mornings. Hey, you know what? At least you only look like a train wreck in the mornings. I look like a train wreck all the time. So, it could be worse. So, no, you don't have to have it on, but it's nice to have it on. You catch the vibe a little different, Okay, so now zooming out even more, and this gives us, I would say, a bit better context, a bit better understanding. If you notice, Dow Jones hasn't quite cleared these highs, kind of the original highs that it creates in this range. So I do have a feeling that we may end up seeing this take out those zones and get above these highs. So the sell to me, I think, is going to be more NASDAQ than it is Dow, because NASDAQ already cleared this external liquidity and we're still trading in here. So I feel like we may end up getting above here. So the buy, I think, looks more likely to happen with Dow than it does with NASDAQ here. So let's see what the market's starting to look like, and we're just gonna observe, right? All we're gonna do is observe here. And if you guys notice, we're starting to see both dip into the zone. So here is, I'd say right here, we're getting above these highs. NASDAQ doing a better job at staying above here as well. So let's see how they dip in. And then let me take a quick look at S&P 500. S&P trading up here as well. So Dow and S&P actually really similar. Same goes with NASDAQ. So these are all trading like very, very, very similarly. it almost looks like you can't really go wrong between NASDAQ and S&P here. So keep an eye on this. Have an awareness on what your contract size or lot size needs to look like before you take any sort of positions here. So let's see what New York Open is going to do for us, and then what kind of positioning we can get into. So if I'm going to take a position, it would probably be somewhere in here. Right over here. From what it looks like so far, all right, so we're starting to see NASDAQ pull away a little bit. Dow did dip first. So let's see how this comes together. Give it some time to trade. So with New York Open, obviously, guys, we're going to get a ton of volatility. So we saw how Dow dipped down, quickly played out of the zone. NASDAQ as well. I'm in no rush. Let's see here. Okay, there we go. That looks good. This looks good. So as of right now, it looks to me a bit more clear that NASDAQ is going to kind of get into this lower zone last. It looks like that's going to be the case. So identifying, I think this is roughly 50, 60 point stop is what we can expect out of these positions. So really going to be based on your own personal preference. But that's what it's looking like at the moment. But now look at this. Okay, starting to see a little bit more bearishness out of NASDAQ. Dow kind of chilling in here. So we just might end up seeing Dow then get into the zone last. And that's what I want to wait for. Like, let's let the price action unfold. Let's see what options we have and go from there. So that's why usually what I do is I try to identify, all right, if I were to take Dow, where would I have my, like what contracts, what lot sizes would I need? And then if I were to take NASDAQ, what would I need here? So as of right now, check it out. It's kind of switched over. We're seeing Dow trading up here, wanting to hold structure a bit better. And actually, it looks like it's kind of creating some more liquidity. Looks like Dow could give us a spike down into here before it rallies. So as of now I'm leaning a little bit more towards Dow Jones. So we'll just kind of identify what is required out of both. If you have both of them set in stone, then you can adapt way more quickly if it requires you to. So here, all right, now I know roughly what the lot size would be for either opportunity. All right, so here we go. Now we're seeing Dow get a bit more. Look at the way that it kind of played out of here, rejecting strongly. I would say that the movement that we're getting right now, it looks to me more like we're closing out this sell-off here, then we are trading out of the London session lows. So I don't think we're getting a bounce off of the London session movement. I think we're getting a bounce out of just kind of this sell-off that we got a few hours afterwards. So I'm just going to wait this one out, give it a little bit of time. Since it's building up liquidity here anyways, it seems to me like it's going to we could naturally see this work our way down. So going to give this some time. We're starting to see NASDAQ cool off in price action. I'm not interested in any sort of sells in this range. Liquidity over here, like I have no desire to do anything there. Easily could have taken out those highs, so not really in my interest. And then, oh, thanks, baby. Hi. All right. So look at how we're seeing NASDAQ get into here. Now, what would make sense? NASDAQ, when it dropped into this area over here, and I can pull up just NQ as well. When we saw NQ drop into this range, it basically came down to equal lows anyways. So would it be that shocking if we saw NQ clear some of more of these lows, maybe even poke into this NFP imbalance again? I wouldn't be totally surprised. So that's something I'm keeping my eyes on. And then we have Dow here as well, starting to work its way back into this zone. And then let's do a quick check-in on S&P. And when we see NASDAQ, Dow kind of trading very, very similarly, sometimes your safest route is actually trading S&P, which in today's example kind of looks like might be the better play of all of them anyways. You can tell, okay, you see the sweep below here. Okay, clears those lows. Let's zoom out a bit. S&P gets below price action just overall. So we see S&P get below this range. Trades into below Sunday's Asian session as well, and into Friday's New York lows. Fantastic. Right now, as you can see, it's trading very bullish, trading way up here. Compare this to NASDAQ. Similar approach. So as we're looking at the markets here, honestly, I think if you were to say it, the setup that has the highest probability of not getting wicked out, if you can't choose between Dow or NQ, then S usually plays somewhere in the middle. So in this example, I kind of feel like, you know, S&P is not going back and forth now. So for example, now you look at Dow on the left here, it's kind of trading lower. You look at NQ, now we're starting to trade a little bit higher up in the same range. Meanwhile, S&P kind of splits the difference. So yeah, I'm curious to see what we end up getting here. By the time, let's say we get a push down, if we get a push down, then, I mean, we might not even really need to go with S&P and split the difference, but it's always an option. So if you notice, look, right now we're seeing Dow kind of want to push down. You can see NQ pushing up, and then S&P leaning a bit more like NASDAQ as well. So on the other side of the coin, you have the following. If NQ is, let's say, going to just continue to push higher. So let's say we see NQ is just, you know, on a rampage. Then if we end up seeing NQ, you know, reach the highs and Dow is really slow in working up into here, then that would give us the opportunity to short Dow Jones. So for example, if we notice, all right, NQ right now, it's making a push to the upside. So it's pumping. Great. What can that do? Well, that may lead to taking out retail sells here. Let's say that's the case. And we just see this continue. And I mean, this is a version of liquidity here. So let's say liquidity right there. So if we see a clearance of this, we get above, and then we're seeing the divergence. So then all of a sudden Dow is kind of making a lower high. That could be a quality setup. So now we wait. And what that also may turn into, if you look at the NQ here, NQ makes a drop. It sweeps quite a bit of sideways movement, just a couple hours worth, and then makes its move to the upside. So for all we know, this move that we got with New York Open, like right after New York Open, a couple minutes after, this move right here, this may end up becoming the sell-off before the market rallies. This would only, in my opinion, be valid if we see quite a bit of continued demand up here. And we would need the additional context of just the overall indice markets. Like if right now it just quickly comes right back down, I wouldn't take a buy right here or anything like that. So one of the things that I'm also keeping in consideration is, remember, we haven't quite cleared out these highs. So we're still kind of within a range with Dow, whereas NQ has already broken the highs, and it broke the high from Friday as well. So if we do end up getting this trade, I'm going to take a conservative exit because I do still think we'll probably break above it anyways at some point. All right, so we're starting to see the momentum start to pick up a little bit here, not just on NQ, but also on Dow. Dow is starting to follow the momentum as well as NQ does its thing. So I'm going to have, once we start to kind of trade into this, this Asian session, I'm going to keep my eyes on the market here. So I want to see what the market does there. Same thing, once Dow, if it gets up to this zone, I kind of want to see what's happening there. All right, and with that being said, let's pull up another chart and let's look at some of the setups that you guys have. So, for example, in the Tradetopia community, which you all can find linked in the pinned message here. So make sure that you're locked in there. All right, while that loads, I guess. Now, remember what I was saying with indices, right? I was saying if this comes right back in, I wouldn't look to buy this. So esto subió y bajó inmediatamente. So I'm not looking to buy anything here. That to me is not enough demand for me to just go and buy right here. So I'm going to stay away from that. Okay, so staying away from that. We can notice S&P as well starting to push down. Okay. So let's see if this is going to lead to clearing these lows and, which one of these opportunities kind of makes more sense. So a good way to look at it is when you see it, or if we see break this previous low, like right there. This was just about 2.5 hours before New York Open. You have this one right there. I want to see which one cracks into the zone first, because then I'll take the other position. So I'd take, for example, if NQ just melts down into here and Dow Jones is having a harder time, then I'll take the buy whenever Dow gets down into this zone. And as you guys are noticing, the markets are moving basically sideways for 15 minutes. 15 minutes, sideways movement. For me, this is a sign that you want to maintain patience. You want to maintain discipline, because big moves can happen. So you may see a big sweep down or up and then back the other way. Kind of like a whiplash effect. So if you have a decision on where you want to trade, then stick to it. If you need more context, more data, then wait. Just wait. Right? You don't have to feel like you need to be in the market right now if you don't have confirmations to be in the market right now. So wait it out. For example, looking at this, it's a little still undecided. It kind of seems like Dow wants to push through first, but we don't want to trade what we assume, what we think. We just want to trade what is. All right, so we're seeing it crack through here. Looks like Dow pushing initially. Let's see if we keep going down. All right, let me check on the stream here. Make sure the stream quality is decent. From the looks of it right now, I think NQ might be the buy. Let's see. Let's see if it stays that way. Dow poked down, but then retreating. My chat here is not loading. It's unfortunate. All right, well, chat. I guess if you guys want to say anything, then you can go ahead and do it in the exchange. So, all right, we're starting to see more and more of a push to the downside initially with Dow. So Dow pushing down, NQ still holding. So if we continue to see this move, it might be what just kind of wicks NASDAQ into its opportunity somewhere over here. But for now, I'm waiting here. Okay, so in the meantime, like I mentioned, you guys can drop your charts here in the post, this first post. So in the stream, dentro. All right, I'm seeing none of this, so let me refresh this. I'm assuming some of you guys have charts you want me to look at. So go ahead here, reload the page. All right. And one thing that's happening right now is we're just kind of building up retail buyers here. it just looks like Dow is accumulating more liquidity up here, and then NASDAQ also not really making any conclusive decisions. So I believe that we don't quite have full context yet, and we're just going to have to keep waiting until we have further confirmations over here. All right, let's see. Oh, what's up? I see you in here. How do I pronounce your name? Caius? Chaos? Took this one on Dow, saw after the low zone on NAS would have been a better option, but don't see the imbalance in NAS after move. Why do you have the low zone on NAS? Dow Jones taking the buy. 15 here. Yeah, taps into there. All right, so you're taking the 15-minute. Cool. And just kind of let it rise, right? Yeah, for me, it was just a mitigation zone. So this lower zone here we had a sell-off right there before it rallied. So I was just waiting to see if we were going to close this out, in which we ended up doing so right there. That's what that was. Yeah, I like the 15-minute play, though, for Dow. That was solid. Solid. I had the same thing. All right, so NQ building up some more steam again. I don't necessarily feel like we've quite mitigated this zone, so this looks more like a buildup of liquidity for me. So I'll get back to that at some point. So let's go ahead and let's go look at the majors, right? Let's go look at gold. All right, so here we have pulling up the Australian. Australian right now, it looks to me like we're going to end up clearing, these all of this liquidity from up in this zone. So taking this out just kind of makes sense to me. What do you guys think there? How are you guys looking at this range? And then it respected really well the lows. Down in here, we saw it spike into these areas super nicely, coming back up. If you looked at, we'll look at NZD, similar perspective, came into these lows structure-wise, now looking to rally. Well, that's futures. NZD, similar progression, and then you have Euro and the pound. So GBP has been much more bearish all of this time. We talked about shorts with the pound, ended up happening during London session. So we end up seeing this, work its way, absolutely melt down, and now aggressively recovering. Whereas if you look at something like Euro here made really interesting price action. We just saw the sweep of these Asian session lows, a couple days worth of liquidity. So we get below here. Now what I want to see, this is the data feed on Oanda. This is a regulated broker. So that's one thing. Does this match futures? So we look at futures here, and we see the lows, and there you have it. This looks like liquidity to me. So despite it spiking and clearing a bit of liquidity, it looks like it ends up creating more. So am I, gonna just go and look to trade this buy over just because it swept some liquidity? Since it made more, I'm not totally in love with this opportunity quite yet, unless we have other confirmations. But right now we're seeing, for example, something like this where the Australian, similar movement, clears the lows, plays down to these levels, and then rallies. NZD stays within the structure. Euro creates equal lows. And GBP USD actually losing steam. It hasn't even made any highs yet. So then, really, being honest with you guys, I don't really like many of these yet. Australian maybe is starting to look like it could be the play. We saw the big sweep down into the zone. So maybe we end up seeing this work out. So for now, with the majors that end in USD, I'm alert. I'm aware, but I want to see better movement. Now, if we look at something like USD CAD, for example, USD CAD pumped up here, same thing, but in the opposite direction. CAD futures made its move, then is dropping now. This, in my opinion, is making very conclusive decisions on its direction. So I'm definitely interested in seeing USD CAD or CAD futures and what this setup could look like in the future, especially if we maintain structure. So looking at something like this. And more than anything, what we kind of want to just keep in mind is on the pullbacks, whenever the market does end up pulling back into these zones, just how do all these USD pairs relate to each other? What do they look like? So right now, I like what USD CAD can do for us. I would want us to maintain some good structure, and then we could get some solid positioning out of it. So here is USD CAD. And let me go ahead and add a section here for this. So we'll have our Tradetopia trades here. So this is USD CAD trade. June 10th, 2025. And what we can do to add on to this, just to make sure like you have the right perspectives, 'cause I know some of you trade CAD futures. We can look at 6C here. Let's go to the current contract. And we didn't end up taking anything. Someone asked me here where I would take my profit for a different trade. So I was like, this is the range that I was looking at if you wanted to exit. So here is the zone. So we'll call it, I'll play it from here to here. Got the buy zone. We see that we spend very little time trading it in this range, and we actually crack below this and then make the move. So if we definitely keep some good demand over here, then I would expect us to see some good movement here. So at some point, playing back into these ranges, we've seen the market reject here plenty of times, so it looks good to me. So that's CAD futures. One thing I'm noticing here, because I got on this other screen, looking at indices, Dow is still building up quite a bit of liquidity over here, and Nasdaq's also just sitting in a range. So I wonder if we're about to get some more explosiveness over here. So let me show you guys. Here you got Dow squeezing some more, just kind of going back and forth and back and forth. And it's getting a little bit kind of boring, right? Like, man, just do something. Got the little meme with the stick just poking at the chart. And this is like textbook taking advantage of the lack of dopamine that you're getting from not seeing it really make any decisions. So you don't have to. Remember that. There is an alternative choice. It's not buy or sell. It's buy or sell or do nothing. Okay, so while that continues to just kind of chop up, we can go ahead and take a look at some other majors and then look at metals as well. So for example, let's take a look at USD/JPY. Or USD/CHF is good. USD/CHF still very, very, very much sideways. I don't have any desire of trading within this at all. So this all looks just like absolute liquidity to me. I want nothing to do with this. And same thing on both ends. So liquidity on the lows and also as it's trending. All right, so you see that, you see the trend line trending upwards, just massive squeeze. I'm definitely good on all this. Looking at USD/JPY, we had this zone that I was looking at for short on USD/JPY got pretty close to poking into here. So now the question that we have to ask ourselves is, did USD/JPY mitigate? So we saw this big zone up here. This pushes about 150 pips. The market got into this zone and it did drop. So we did see a decent drop. The market drops about 113 pips. Not bad. Comes up again, just short of the zone. Drops a little bit. About 85 pips as well. I don't feel like we've fully closed out like this massive buy position. I feel like we still have the option. So if we do poke above one more time, I'm open to taking a position on a short here with the yen. And then you have a couple targets. So whether it's all of this liquidity that's building up here, could be a good target. For example, if you pull up the risk calculator or the risk reward tool here, and then you look at this, you go, okay, well, would it be worth a trade if I'm only solely targeting this liquidity? I'd say you'd probably get around maybe a 1.5 R, which is okay. You know, you need to understand what it would take for that to be a profitable exit for you consistently. Beyond that, however, I do see a bigger picture exit that can be available for this trade as well. So, for example, looking at this zoomed out a bit more, we've seen a buildup of liquidity here. So you guys, I mean, can see it. The market is creating trend line after trend line. It's tapping the trend line multiple times. So seeing the market kind of clear these lows that have been building up time after time, it also looks like a possibility, in my opinion, to get below all. And this has been building up since April, May, now June. So can we see that next move to the downside over here? I think that's definitely a possibility. So the yen, let's say, targeting just cracking these lows or playing into the trend. That doesn't have to break it, but just trade into it. That could be another sign that could lead into, like, you know, a 3R, etc. So, because sometimes, like with this, you can't always assume that the time that you're getting in is when it's going to break through liquidity. Sometimes when you get in, it just adds to it. So it does push towards it, adds some more liquidity, pulls all the way back, and then now you round trip your profits. So exiting at liquidity has a higher probability of success because it doesn't need that extra push to break through. So I've noticed sometimes we're just assuming when I get in is when we're going to break through liquidity. I don't know if it's because you think it's your orders, but if you want higher probability, then exit at or before even liquidity. So something like this is looking solid for in my book here. So here is USD JPY. All right, there it is. And then if we just want to flip it on its head, we can pull up yen futures. Okay, here we go. So we got yen futures over here. Same concept. The market rejected already once. Minimal movement. Looks like not quite the full reversal. However, this move down did kind of get into this imbalance a little bit better, it looks like. So we'll see. If this just keeps rallying, then maybe this was the case, and then it is what it is. But if we do come back into just a little bit deeper, then yeah, it looks like a quality opportunity. So here we go. Something like this, I think, could play out. And then you have the trend line here. Let me zoom out a bit more. So you got all this just kind of building its way out. So just to even play into the trend line liquidity, again, puts you at like a 3 over a 3R, just depending on how and in which way it happens. And then at some point, it looks like we could get into a short here on yen futures. So basically, and this is this 4-hour zone. I'm not going to zoom in just to save time here, but similar to USD JPY, kind of just flipped on its head. Okay. Now, remember what I was saying in the beginning of the session. I was saying basically every other day right now, what we're getting and what we're seeing is a lot of sideways movement right after New York Open. So what happens? This exhausts traders. They get decision fatigue. They get indecision fatigue. I know that if the market, for example, if someone is in a trade right now with Dow and NASDAQ, S&P, and it's going up and down and up and down, people are either adding more to their positions because they just can't stand still or sit still. They are getting out because they're nervous. They've never committed fully to their risk. They don't understand their trade. Now, we're not in anything right now, but this is very much intentional. Very much. This is the time under tension. So, how are you handling it? Okay. Now we can move on from the majors. We've basically looked at them all. ETH has been on a rampage. But let's go look at metals real quick. Let's go look at gold. All right. So yesterday's mitigation during Asian session played out well. You know, we talked a bit about this, ended up coming back up. And then we had actually talked about how the market could mitigate this sell-off too. And during Asian session, did it again. So played right out of there. Did anyone take this position? Anyone take this right here? It's playing back up. Right now, I'm not really looking to trade anything around here except for this zone up here. So with gold, I do like what I'm seeing now with the short. We were getting higher highs, higher lows, higher highs over here. We noticed that when the market worked its way up to here beyond 34.17, very little demand, market came crashing back down. So I think that we can clear above this, take out these sellers, play up into this range, and then see the short in this zone. So I do like a sell here, depending on kind of how we would make it up into this range. That would give me a better perspective on how far I want to take this. But for a short, I'm looking at something like this. So selling where we've seen previous levels of resistance here, breaking above this little wick as well. So trading over here, and then taking an exit where we've seen some consistent areas of support, resistance. So these are just kind of like just typical reversal areas. So taking something like this, 2.79 RR, I'm cool with. Doesn't always need to be 3R or above. It's just what is high probability. Now, considering we have some imbalance over here as well, trading it into this imbalance, also not a terrible idea. Obviously, it's a little bit riskier because you're just going to assume that it's going to get into the imbalance. Here, we've seen a constant reversal back and forth in the past. So higher probability exit here that you don't give up. You don't end up giving back a ton. So this could either be a great point for a full take profit or for partials. So what I'll do is I'll just kind of set up two different ideas. And then have one that goes more into the imbalance here. Okay, so here is gold. Now remember, the prices that you're seeing on my screen may be different. This is the futures data feed from the COMEX. All right, so that leaves us with gold, metals. From here, we can take a position. I'll look at silver. Silver making pullbacks at the moment. I really have nothing to do with silver right now either. So let's go look at some other things. Put that away. Let's see what ideas you guys have. So I'll post this. I'll update if I need to. But here we go. All right, and then here, if anyone has any more charts you want me to look at, let me know. Let's see, membership requests. I think that'll show some of your information, so I won't click that right now. Do you mind accepting people on that invite that requested? All right, if anybody has any setups you want me to look at, let me know in here. We went over the typically the most popular ones already anyways. So we may not have to go through too much more. What I can go over now is some of the natural gas and oil things. And oil has been absolutely on fire. Just ripping. Which honestly was to be expected after it finally in April, right, made those lows, similar to how we saw, and looks like we're getting closer to switching contracts. But yeah, when we saw this big push down on the weekly, right, it finally cracked all of this liquidity and made its way back over to kind of that 2021 price action. Filled some gaps, and then it actually did a weekly time frame shakeout setup, which is epic. So sweeps liquidity, comes back up for the typical break and retest, lures in sellers some more, which is epic. So huge move down, deep pullbacks there. And this starts to hint that you should be good for a bullish run. Because when it comes down to, sub 58, the movement here is very much, it's little demand, right? Down and right back up. And then we trade above 60 for quite some time, for a couple weeks. And then when it works its way down, same thing. It's down and then right back up. So when you're seeing that there's very little demand, like in these circumstances, you're almost kind of fishing for, okay, how do I squeeze my way into an opportunity like this? So now the market has fully rallied, and I would say it did leave some money behind over here, but there's nothing that you can do now. Like, it's already ripping. So if you are in oil swings, I think you're basically good to let this thing run. I think we've already kind of rejected this order block, so I would imagine that we keep climbing up to 69, if not 70. on oil. This is where ultimately we could see a short. Would be way up here. So if you're riding the oil trades, nice. Well done. I feel like, yeah, this isn't, I would say, not the cleanest price action on the smaller time frames, but the higher time frames definitely gave some pretty cool opportunities. And then looking at natural gas, or I guess I'll share oil here. This one expired. Yeah, that one expired. Let me go ahead and share this oil chart. Okay. See, here are the setups. So if you guys make sure, if you find it, go over here. Add a comment if you like one of these and you want to take one of these yourself as well. So let me add the oil chart. So CL. All right, perfect. Okay. Indices. Just quickly to recap, get back everyone on the same page. Squeezing. That's it. Nothing has developed here. Okay. Now. What I want to go over, which I haven't gone over in a bit, is I kind of want to go over some stocks. Because depending on the market cap of stocks as well, you can kind of get a decent understanding of what indices can also do. So, for example, let's say we looked at NVIDIA, and it's been super bullish, just absolutely pushing. Well, if you look at the price action over here, so let's say we're looking at 1 hour, we're trading still up, very up and above. Over here, a lot of sideways movement. If you ask me, from Monday's open and then just yesterday and today, there is a lot of liquidity here on both sides. So not only sell side liquidity, but also the buy side liquidity. So I would imagine this is why we can have quite a bit of explosiveness here. So that, not doing too much. And let me know what kind of, if you guys are invested into stocks, which ones, why. Let's see, we'll look at some of the big ones. Take a look at Amazon. See what Amazon's up to today. It's down a little bit, nothing crazy. We have a gap from Thursday to Friday. I'm sure we'll fill that at some point. But what I want to see here is bigger picture things for investment side of things. The markets have been, pushing really strongly. So at least the way I like to look at investing in stocks, I feel like it's kind of just happens in waves for me. So either like I'll just kind of dump a good amount, like once a quarter or once. It just depends on how everything is moving. So, for example, most markets are looking like this, where these stocks are up, 25, 30% since April, because this was a massive spike down and now it's pushing back up. Now, not everything looks like that. Like, for example, Intel's been squeezing for some time, quite some time, from August 2024. Been moving up and down, decent range over here. So this is, for example, something that could just give us something like this, like a huge 40% pump, just because it's been squeezing for so much. And to be honest, I think that's basically bound to happen here. Sometimes now earnings reports aren't for another 44 days. So that could be a reason why something like that can happen, or, any other reason. But DCA into something like this, catch a big bounce. Yeah, it makes sense to me. So, like, example, Intel is one of them. You're not picking that up extremely bullish. Another one that I've been scooping up has been Nike. Nike had worked its way all the way down, got back to some really key levels, and then now has been slowly but surely moving its way up. Still another one that I believe can continue to rally, despite what the market, what the price is looking like. I think that we have easy 50%, 75% gains to pick up on Nike. This crossing back over to 110 and above, which is basically almost 100% growth. Easy, in my opinion, easy money. So pick that up. Basically pulled back up into imbalance from 2017. So, yeah, for example, these two are ones that for me were like just easy pickups. I don't really have the same fear that can be there. I think Tesla was another easy one when we just saw it dumped pretty nicely. And I'll show you guys how the market will use any sort of excuse to create, just leverage fundamentals to make the drops that it need to make. So, for example, I think it was Thursday or Friday, we saw Trump, Elon going at it. So we see a huge dip in Elon stocks. Oh, what a surprise. It just dips and rebalances and then just plays off of this again. So literally, if you just would have kind of bought into the fear, all right, cool. You're sitting on 15% gains in like a few days. Light work, super light work. And it pulled back in pretty quick. So this was just if you picked it up Thursday, Friday, even on Monday. Let's see. There was a few more. I think PayPal, Starbucks is growing. There's some, REITs that I have my eyes on as well. Waiting for them to come down. I'm not sure if they will anytime soon. So what I do, and I do the same thing with crypto, when I feel like, all right, we're kind of ripping quite a bit, I don't really want my dollar cost average up here, I'll just dollar cost average into stable, or I'll basically, instead of picking up the stock, I'll just put money into the portfolio, like in just the dollar, and then that money is already accounted for. So whenever it hits the levels that I like again, I can pick them up at that time. So, but the money is already there. It's not like, oh, let me just, whatever money I randomly have available, I'll invest it at prices. You already prepared, like you already knew, okay, here I've just been week by week by week stacking up, let's say, stocks money, so that when it hits your levels, okay, now you can deploy the capital. So do that. I think that, I don't know, for me, it just seems like a no-brainer. Okay, let me pull up this YouTube stream chat again. All right, here we go. Meanwhile, after all of this sideways movement, now it's a little unclear whether we're going to see Dow or NQ be the one that spikes down a bit more aggressive. It's interesting. We'll see what this looks like. Okay. Hey, I appreciate all of you guys liking the stream. You know, it really helps us be able to put more people on to literally free education, free live trade management, the whole thing. You know, like obviously you can accelerate your learning process, you know, just ridiculously faster having more hands-on help, you know, more mentorship and things like that. But to at least be able to see what this is like, you know, learn for free, get the systems down through just live trading experience, I think is such a massive difference. Like I remember when I started to trade, I just didn't really know what to expect overall in general. Like I just didn't know what's going on. So I think to have something like this goes a really long way. So if you guys are getting into trading or you've been trading and you're at a point where, you know, you can't necessarily, or you just maybe refuse to invest in learning, at least you're picking up on things here and there. And the big thing that I want you guys to get out of just being on these streams is, if I were you, I would just be using this time to honestly like ask those hard-hitting questions. But the difference and the hard part sometimes about trading is you don't know what questions you need to be asking yourself. You know what I mean? So really want to make sure that you guys are doing that. You know, you're asking the right questions, you're able to progress, you're not staying stagnant, and also you're keeping yourself accountable. So yeah, love that you guys are here. Appreciate you guys just being on. No setup so far, so just patience. You called out Walgreens a couple months ago and made good returns so far. Yeah, Walgreens was fire. When you trade stocks, you just say market analysis. Yes. Yeah, definitely. How so I invest more than I just trade them, but I do trade them here every once in a while if it's just like really good setups. What broker? It depends. Depende de dónde estás. Si estás afuera de Estados Unidos es mucho más fácil. Sé que con DarwinX puedes operar acciones en CFDs. Mike, I'd like to learn a bit more about Wyckoff and his theory. Do you have? I know Nance. Yeah, Nance is doing a Wyckoff bootcamp. What validates the imbalance on that gold trade? I could be wrong, but price seems efficient. Is it just the last push up before the? Sorry, I'm just seeing this now. What validates the imbalance on that gold trade? So let me pull it up, Sophia. Let me know if you're still on. Looks like that was like 15 minutes ago that you asked. Which imbalance? Here, the sweep down. Here we don't really have, we didn't really rebalance much. What are you talking about here? Oh, hey, what's up? Yeah, let me know if you can be more specific so that way, or like a price range or whatever. That way I can kind of get a better idea. Okay, let's see. Going through this. Close 1 to 3 on it. Nice. You guys are killing it. All right, what's up, Diego, Ruben, Broly? I'm in Dow, and I can imagine why they would do that. Been feeling pretty relaxed, especially because I'm running risk-free. Nice. Normally, I would have entered already for calls and puts. Okay. As a confirmation, like the imbalance we'd use for confirmation for the entry. Are you talking about up here? So we see the sweep of liquidity, right? The market then works its way down. And in here, so for example, if we zoom in a little bit, we notice on the way down, this is moving decently efficient. And then we see this one more push down to here. We work our way back. So honestly, this does look relatively balanced. Like if you're on the 15-minute, this looks actually pretty decent. There is a bit of an imbalance over here, but what it hasn't happened is we haven't really mitigated this though. So we haven't seen the close of the buy positions for all the sells to come to get exchanged. So if you notice, the bigger thing here is we see a massive buy that clears all of these highs. We haven't quite come back to close out all of these positions. And then the imbalance is just kind of like, okay, here's where the market could naturally come into. Here you see how we kind of spike up, then down. We haven't quite got back into this range either. So that's why the entry over here would be logical. This is just to refine the entry. So overall, the idea is, okay, well, buyers come into the market basically like right there. So here we see a pump, a little bit of a drop, continuation, everything reverses. So did this already mitigate is the question. When the market dropped down, came back up, came back down, was this the case? This is now where we could, I mean, it honestly is up to interpretation. Because we could actually say, you know what? It looks like the market came back here, tapped into this area where the buys started, and then we see the market drop. If we believe this is true and this is where the market mitigated, then we have no business selling in this range. And that's where the market can get a little bit tricky, is where we have moments like this. Now, to me, it looks like the market came into here and traded into this range, and we saw, you know, a kind of a mellow drop, some more sideways movement, and then continuation. So to me, it looks like the buy here mitigated here, but the overall, the higher time frame, what ends up clearing liquidity, you know, what ends up doing all of this, this to me looks like we could still get up into this level, because the way in which we should mitigate this, the way in which we should see a reversal, should be a bit stronger and a bit more heavy. So let me know if that answered your question. Okay. So, cool. Solid. And then crypto related. Before we do, so I was just asked about gold. Me preguntan sobre oro. Y si veo compras por aquí, no me encanta tanto por la forma que aquí, pues no es que hace. I mean, I guess this is pretty efficient. It's just like a little accumulation and then a continuation. Okay, that's not bad actually. You see it kind of slip into this range and then off it goes. Maybe we trade even in here. You see a little push down and then it rallies. Would be savage to get a buy like right here. The RR on this trade would be fantastic. But I would want to see more demand up here. We kind of got above here and then just lost the momentum. So me gustaría ver más demanda por acá. Que el mercado realmente respete estos altos. Creo que prefiero mucho más. Pero lo entiendo. Yeah, I want to quickly go over what we're getting with crypto and then call it a day. Remember, tomorrow evening, we also have the crypto sessions. So Nancy hosts some in-depth TA, break down kind of the state of crypto, some opportunities for portfolio, some short-term, long-term trades. So make sure you guys are, and it's always in the Tradetopia community, right? Everything here, guys, like everything you need is here. You have your calendar, you have different setups, different sessions that are just available for literally everyone, anyone, if it were to load, of course. But so everything is there. The link's there as well, so you don't miss any sessions, any bonus sessions that aren't done here on YouTube will be there. And the big thing that I want to show you guys is it just really looks like we're getting reaccumulation. So I'd say get ready. Get ready, my friends, because this spike down that we saw happen Friday wasn't what it looked like, huh? Wasn't what it looked like, my friends. So we saw that massive drop down here, creating tons of fear. And then all of this did was liquidate tons of positions, played into liquidity here, or played into imbalance over here, different levels of structure. Bitcoin is just one chart, right? The total market cap is what shows us overall kind of a better perspective. But as long as we don't just absolutely bleed back down below 106 and just get here and trade down here, as long as we can kind of sustain this, then this to me looks like we could be in for the next leg up that does some very, very cool price action. So as long as we can get into this, then we may end up seeing something like this and then going absolutely insane. And we may not even go that far. So we shall see here. Now, outside of Bitcoin itself, I want to show you guys something here, and then we'll wrap up. But look at the crypto dominance here. So we played right into this area again. We're kind of constantly leading upwards and upwards and upwards. So here we're seeing how Bitcoin dominance keys losing momentum and then picking up momentum, losing Bitcoin dominance. So once we crack below the previous low here and we stay there, I think this is going to give us it's going to give us further signs that, all right, now we're really seeing things change up. So before we wrap up, look at this. Dow Jones leading the way. So Dow finally cracked out of all of this liquidity, which is more than okay. So what do I think happens now? The way it looks, I'm not looking to sell, so no estoy buscando vender. I don't think we get over here. I think we actually crack these highs. So I don't know if it's going to happen right away, if it happens later. But once we break above this, I'm curious to see if we end up cracking above not just the external liquidity. So we have these here to keep in mind. And I wonder if, like, kind of where that takes NASDAQ. So does NASDAQ end up coming into this zone? Do we end up selling here? So if Dow clears these highs and that somehow, and NASDAQ somehow stays within this range, then I would be looking to short NASDAQ. So we will see, because right now we're starting to see Dow really picking up a lot of momentum, NQ chilling, big chilling. So this may end up being just kind of a big divergence, and that might give us the opportunity to see NQ sweep some of this liquidity. If we're seeing Dow up here, if we got Dow way up here, and we're seeing NQ barely getting into here, this calls for shorts, and that may take us, down to here. So, but we'll kind of play it by ear. We'll see how this comes together. I would imagine that if that's not the case, then another thing that could happen is we just break above as well. But I would allow the market to see it happen. And yeah, so if that's the case, the other option is that the market also cracks above and then creates another. So you may see two different versions of this. And how do you know what to do? Just let the bigger picture show you. So let the market clear liquidity first before you start taking positions. If it hasn't done that, then you might end up on the wrong side of the trade. So anyways, with that being said, guys, if you take any wins, if you learn something new, drop it in the Tradetopia here exchange. We'd love to see your guys' just progression, development. Remember, there's tons of free resources in here as well. So if you're in there, you have, the Launchpad, you have the Smart Money Playbook, you have some psychology videos in there. And then remember, you can earn up to 4 credits, each one worth $500 for those of you wanting to apply to the syndicate, which is our 1-year program. That is definitely approval based. So we just want to make sure you are actually qualified to be in there, which means be in the right place financially, have the right expectations and understandings, and then have also the proper time commitment, because it really isn't just for everybody. We want the highest probability to help you be successful, and if you're just not in the right place in any of those things, then it doesn't really make sense. So either way, take advantage of all the resources, and we will be seeing you guys tomorrow. Remember, if you want to trade CPI with us, the link pinned will give you access to the community, and we'll be trading CPI early